Hey everyone, welcome back to the Low Buy Life. I'm Leslie, and for today's video, I wanted to talk a bit about New Year's resolutions because everyone everywhere is talking about their resolutions. And if you're someone like me, you might feel a little bit behind on not making New Year's resolutions. But in my case, it is actually on purpose. I do not make New Year's resolutions. Some of you may be the same, but I wanted to talk a bit about why someone may not make New Year's resolutions, maybe some better options, and just some positives and negatives because there definitely are some benefits to making New Year's resolutions, but they are not necessary to reach your goals. So for me, the main reason that I don't make New Year's resolutions is because I am always making goals throughout the year. So I am not going to wait until the new year starts to set up my goals. And also, I have made some New Year's resolutions in the past, but they tend to be very big goals and things that they just kind of drop off after the first month, maybe even the first couple weeks of the year. And I think that is so common for people who make New Year's resolutions that you just fall off track so fast. So let's talk about some of the positives and negatives of New Year's resolutions. So the positives, you definitely get a big motivation boost at the beginning of the year. So it is a new year, a fresh start, new year, new you, all of that. So I definitely feel that as well because my 2025 was not great. I had a lot of issues. So it does feel really nice to be going into a new year with 2026 where you do have a fresh start, a clean plate, and you can just pick whatever you want to do for the year. So having that nice, like, psychological fresh start in your mind can really help you rethink your life and what goals you might need to set. So this is a big benefit of doing New Year's resolutions. So they can also be a really nice way to track the habits that you're trying to set. So maybe you set some goals last year that you can look at again this year, see where you are, see what needs to be changed. So being able to track and monitor your progress, having a 1 year mark like that is a really good idea. Although personally, I do think you should probably be checking in more than just once a year with some of these goals, but it is nice to have that milestone to check in. It can also help to hold you accountable in the same way so that you know the next year is going to start again and you're going to be looking back at these resolutions that you set. Hopefully, you'll be looking back. I feel like in the past, I tend to just forget what my resolutions are, especially if I don't write them down because honestly, I kind of half ass them anyway. So it's like I sort of felt pressure to set a resolution. And so I would just kind of pick something at random and then just forget about it by the next year. But if you're someone who actually tracks your resolutions, it can help to keep you accountable for those goals. I think resolutions are also kind of universal for a lot of people. I could be wrong here because I didn't do too much research on this, but as someone who knows people from different places in the world, everyone seems to start the new year with that mindset of having a fresh start and wanting to do better this year than they did the previous year. So that seems to be kind of a, I guess, a cultural norm. I mean, for sure in the US, I can mainly just speak to the US because that's where I am, but it does seem to be something that people have in mind that they want to improve every year and set goals for each year. So those are some really nice positives of New Year's resolutions. And I mean, they can apply to goal setting in general, but for sure, resolutions. So with that being said, let's talk about some of the negative aspects to resolutions and some of the reasons I personally don't set them. So they can cause a lot of pressure and stress. So especially if you set lofty goals, like I mentioned, where sometimes I would set goals that were too big or they were just too random to where it was something I didn't really feel passionately about or something that wasn't really a huge goal for me. So I would feel this weird pressure to do the goal that I set, and that's definitely a negative aspect to setting resolutions. It can also set unrealistic expectations. So, especially if you look at the resolutions of people around you, you may see people setting these big goals and accomplishing them because you can accomplish some pretty big goals that you set for yourself. But it's quite possible that they were already working towards that goal. Maybe they have some extra help that you don't have. There are all kinds of reasons that someone may reach their goal before you. So this can lead to frustration and guilt on your part if you are not reaching your goals. And especially if you have relatively small goals that you aren't reaching, you can definitely feel that guilt. And then the next one is short lived motivation. So, in the positives, I did mention that you have that motivation at the beginning of the year, But as I also mentioned, how long does that actually stay with you? Are you just staying motivated for maybe a couple weeks or a month? I think a month is probably the longest that I see people talking about resolutions. Beyond January, most people are not referring back to the resolutions. I mean, how many people in like the middle of July are referring back to their New Year's resolutions? It's not that many people. And I definitely see this as someone who goes to the gym. So, not so much at the gym I'm at now. The one I'm at now has a lot of people who are there more for like the healthy lifestyle more than something like weight loss. So, it's people who it doesn't see quite as big of a boom at the beginning of the year as some of the gyms I've been to in the past. But there was one in particular I remember. It was a chain gym. So it's one of those that people, if you Google gyms in my area, there's going to be one. So that one, I remember I joined kind of in the middle of summer, so I had been going for a few months and I saw the normal flow of people. I went at the same time and it was all very regular. I remember the first week of January, I went there, I could not find a parking spot. It was so packed. Like I ended up just parking in the grass with some other people because there was nowhere to park. So of course I get in there and it's just so packed. There are no free machines. It was insane. Like, and this was a gym that was not particularly busy when I used to go, but I remember that first week I was like, "Oh my god, is it going to be like this forever? Like what is happening?" And then by the second week, it really started to drop off. So I noticed more parking spots available, more machines, more machines available, and things were just kind of slowly opening up more. And honestly, by that third week of January, it was almost back to normal. Most people had stopped going just in the first 3 weeks of the year. It was so crazy to see because I never like witnessed it to that extent. And of course, by February, I'm gonna stop talking so fast. By February, it was basically, I mean, it was back to normal by February. So that motivation definitely seems to be short-lived. That seems to be kind of a universal thing for people where they have that short burst of motivation and then it just drops off. So number four of these negative, I think it's number four of the negative aspects, timing isn't necessarily everything. So you do, like I said, you don't have to wait until January 1st to set these goals. So that is one negative. Maybe you're thinking of some goals you have towards the end of the year, like it's September or October, and you have these goals in mind. You may be someone who thinks, well, I'll just make that my resolution. But it's much better to go ahead and jump on those goals while you have that motivation. I know for me this year, so I've been trying to build muscle and lose a bit of body fat because my DEXA scan said that I have way too much body fat, which was news to me and very frustrating. So I'm trying to kind of work on my body composition. So I wanted to do a cut before the holidays to try to lose a bit of body fat. So I actually started my cut, I think it was late August. So the goal was to kind of lose some body fat before I overate during the holidays, of course, and then just get back on track. But I'm not someone who was going to wait until the new year to start that. I wanted to go ahead and get started right away. Even though I knew the holidays were coming up, I'd probably be overeating and then gain back a bit of what I lost anyway. But I was motivated to just go ahead and start right away. So that's definitely the kind of person I am. I think that's good for a lot of people where if you have a goal in mind, you're already motivated because you're thinking on that goal. So just go ahead and get started with working towards it. If you wait until January, you're probably going to lose a lot of that motivation and it's going to be much harder to work towards that goal. Another thing is that sometimes resolutions they focus too much on the outcome rather than the habit itself. So for me, I guess mine might have been not the best example because with the cut, you usually are focused on losing like a certain amount of pounds. But as someone who was already going to the gym regularly, that was an okay goal for me. But if you're someone who is not going to the gym at all, maybe your goal is weight loss, your first thought might be set your New Year's resolution to lose like 20 pounds or whatever. But it would be a better idea to set a habit goal rather than like a number goal. So something, I mean, it's not a bad idea to have a number in mind, but set a habit like go to the gym like 2 or 3 times a week. Eat a certain number of fruits and vegetables every day. Hit your protein target of 100 grams or whatever it is. Set these habitual goals that you can do daily or weekly that will help you get to that number goal at the end. So that's something that resolutions do kind of miss out on sometimes. So, as I mentioned, I do still set goals because I think it is such a great idea to set goals for yourself. Have some long term goals, have some short term goals, and definitely have those in mind and be working towards them throughout the year. So, I would highly recommend just setting goals for yourself throughout the year instead of waiting until the beginning of the year and making your resolutions. So, one goal that I always have is to make sure my savings account has at least $10,000 in it. I think that is such a solid goal for an emergency fund. So last year I was kind of right at the edge of having that 10,000, and then I had a car accident which was not covered by insurance. I have the whole story and the drama throughout the year because this was kind of an ongoing thing, but I did have that emergency. It wiped out everything I had in savings and I had to start back from zero. And so that was really disheartening to have that setback at the beginning of the year. So that was a time where I really had to adapt my goals. So if I had made like a hard resolution to be like, I want to be at $10,000 in savings no matter what, it would have really stressed me out. But because I gave myself that flexibility where, hey, this emergency happened, I'm going to set these other goals to get my savings back up. And actually, I was basically back up to that 10,000 at the end of the year. Not quite, but really close. So you really need to be careful about putting too much pressure on yourself and stressing yourself out because the goals are supposed to be to help you to get to a point that you want to be at in your life. They're not there to stress you out, and that can have such a negative effect to have that extra stress on you. So that's something that I really want to reiterate is to not stress yourself out. That is not the point of this. So being flexible is another big thing to keep in mind. So if you do set your resolutions, if you do set goals like me, make sure you allow yourself some flexibility because you're going to have things come up. There are emergencies. There are just different things that happen. Your priorities may change throughout the year. So you never know what's going to be thrown at you. So make sure you're able to be flexible. Also, it's important to reflect on what goals you have, what goals you've accomplished, and where you are. So again, if you set New Year's resolutions, make sure you are reflecting on that throughout the year. Take it like I don't want to say take it super seriously because again, don't stress yourself out, but just have that in mind if there are goals that you want to make. Another good idea instead of setting like one lofty goal at the beginning of the year, you may want to have that big goal as like your big yearly goal, but set smaller goals to help you reach that big goal so that it's not such a huge task that you're taking on. You want to make it more manageable because I think that is one reason that people do give up on. Sorry, I thought it stopped recording. I think that is one reason that people do give up on resolutions is because they just set too big of a goal and it's just so daunting and it's like how am I even going to accomplish this goal, and then they give up, which is really sad because they clearly had the motivation to set the goal in the first place. So just make sure that you are also being realistic with any goals that you're setting. So I hope I wasn't too all over the place with this video because I honestly just had a lot of random thoughts about New Year's resolutions and setting goals and that kind of thing. And I just wanted to throw them into a video to maybe help you out a little bit. If you're someone who struggles with setting goals, you're someone who doesn't stick with New Year's resolutions, or you're like me and you don't really make them, it's okay to do whatever works for you, and hopefully these tips will help you. So if you enjoyed this video, please just leave me a comment, a like, subscribe to my little channel. It really helps me out. And let me know if you set New Year's resolutions because I would love to know. I mean, maybe I'm alone here with not setting them because I know a lot of people around me definitely do. So yeah, just let me know and I will see you in the next video. Bye.